What is going on, guys? Joey Franzo here with Flex Training Systems. I asked you guys a couple days ago on Instagram to ask me some questions for a, kind of final video before Nationals, and you guys got back to me with some really good ones. So in this video, we're going to go through those questions. We'll be answering all types of different stuff, powerlifting stuff, non-powerlifting stuff. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk about Sean and Russ, because that was by far the most overwhelming. It was the biggest question that I got. Like, most of you guys wanted to know about that. If you want to hear me expand on that more, I also did a podcast with King of the Lifts where I kind of break it down, kind of in a podcast setting. But here we go. First question from Jacoby Garcia. Best workout split to get stronger at the big three. This is a complicated answer, but I would just say the best workout split that's going to help you get better at the big three is the workout split that allows for adequate recovery, the one that best fits your schedule, and allows you to get sufficient work in to stimulate growth. And to find that, it's really going to be dependent on trial and error. I have a couple of different splits that I really like, but I've seen success with pretty much all of them. And, it really depends on the individual, what their life is like, and stuff like that. So, sorry I couldn't just give you an answer. But, if you're hitting everything, twice a week, you should be okay if you're a beginner. Next question comes from El Papi Shoe. Which FORTNITE team resembles Team Joey Flex the most? I don't know. I would say we're very much like FaZe in a sense where we, obviously we're very talented, but we kind of just, I like to, as far as the way that I run it, I like to just do my thing and not really care about what everybody else is doing. And we like to have fun. And I think, FaZe does that very, very well. The Nameless Lifter, hi Josh, how's it going, man? Hope you're doing well, asks, what is the atmosphere at Nationals like compared to Worlds? I'd say they're different. Each Worlds or Nationals, they have their own kind of vibe or kind of feel to it. 2016 Worlds, I felt like it was very official. We had all the different countries' flags there. I didn't know, the majority of the people that are there, you're not going to know of them because they're just foreign. They literally don't speak your language, which I thought was awesome. It adds a sense of, wow, this is really special. This is like a global thing. There's tons of people here from all different areas of the world, and they're here at this one competition. So, it just feels like you're part of something bigger than yourself. Whereas Nationals, I pretty much know, I know a ton of the people there. It's a lot of my people are there. It's super fun. It's very stressful in terms of, it's more stressful, I would say, even than Worlds in terms of placings, because USA is so deep in terms of competition. But it's definitely the meet that prepares you for all the other meets in terms of just being on point, whether you're lifting or if you're coaching or whatever. Nationals is definitely the one where there's a lot on the line. There's a lot of pressure. If you screw up, there's definitely consequences. So it's it's a big thing. So I like that about Nationals. But yeah, Josh, I hope that answers your question. Colt.P asks, the biggest thing that's helped Russell's bench this and last prep. So last prep coming into Worlds, and this is top secret information I'm sharing with everyone. Russ pretty much gives me full control, and I prioritize the bench because after his last competition, that seemed it was lagging. It was definitely something that we needed to bring up. And while we focused on bench, it could allow, thinking long term, it can allow his back to kind of heal. So we put bench to the start of the split, the front of the block, meaning he's going to train bench with the most amount of rest, coming into any given day. You know, contrary to what people think, I think if you bench the day before you're gonna squat, like even if it's 5%, 2%, 3%, these little numbers add up over time. Like each lift will tax the next lift. So we just put bench at the forefront, and you know, kind of applied the same principles that we apply to any of the lifts, bringing them up. I think that strategy can work with any lift. You could do it with deadlift. You could do it with squat. Just kind of allowing the lift to get the most amount of recovery to help squeeze everything out of it. Also, I think he gained like 1 or 2 pounds, which on a super lean guy like that is going to go a long way, especially in the bench, especially when he has super long range of motion. Next question, same person. Will Russ's deadlift be back 100% for this meet? If not, when? So really, and this is like a good question because, you know, everybody looks at Russ's training from the outside when nobody really knows what's going on, like behind the scenes and stuff. Will his deadlift be 100% for this meet? I don't think it'll be like his true potential at this meet. No way. I think, you know, he's capable of regularly hitting over 700 pounds in a competition on a stiff bar. I believe he did pull 700 pounds on a deadlift bar. So, you know, 40 to 20 pounds is anything you can get out of that bar. So, you know, I think he's getting a little bit less than most people out of it. But, I think his deadlift is going to be stronger than it was at Worlds at this meet for sure. Just because we haven't had a little hiccup for, I think it was like 2 months since the last little back thing. And even, you know, I think Russ pulled out of 2016 Nationals because of his back. You know, this was before we had even linked up. And I remember that because I didn't know who he was, and Sean was like, this guy Russell's really strong. He pulled out of Nationals because he hurt his back, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's guy looks dope, man. Who's this dope cat? What's good? And then so I think he's definitely gonna be stronger than he was at Worlds on deadlift. But I don't think I don't know, honestly. The conventional deadlift is hard to tell, like with the peak. He might peak like crazy, and we might get damn near close to 7, which is what I'm hoping for, but we just need to see how it plays out. It's just a matter of time for him. Honestly, it's just a matter of time. If I can push his deadlift the way that I know it needs to be pushed, this takes off. You know, probably 10 weeks, and he's pulling over 7, but it's just a matter of balancing what the body can take, bringing up all the lifts, and trying to stay healthy. So if I push his deadlift too hard and that compromises squat, you know, that's something to think about as well. Another question, same person. Do you think Jesse Norris will compete again, and outcome? I think Jesse will compete again. He has to get healthy first. I think if he competes again, it's going to be very close between him and Ashton. But I think if Jesse is 100% against current Ashton, Jesse will edge him. Granted, it depends on, you know, who misses their third squat on death. Kevin Tran asks, how do you feel about Fortnite Season 6? I think it's fucking insane. I think it's great. I think it's crazy. I think all the new things that they've added to the map are great and just help with, you know, moving around faster and not dying to the storm as much, kind of picking up the pace. And I think the skins are awesome, and this is a great kind of Halloween-themed season. Thanks for that question, Kevin. I hope you kill it in your meat. League of Lifting, a.k.a. John Keiko, how's it going, man? Asks, opinion on Topo's name being changed to Top. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't have just kept it Topo. I don't even know why they did that. That doesn't even make sense to me. But Topo's badass regardless. I just won't say his name. I'm calling him Topo. I'm not going to call him Top. Strongbone94 asks, do you think it's easy to be lazy with RPE? i.e. not putting maximal effort will feel heavier. I do not know what you mean by that second part, but is it easy to be lazy with RPE? I think it kind of depends on the individual. I think what really helps with not kind of like sandbagging constantly is just being objective and watching your, videos and just really asking yourself, okay, how many reps did I have in the tank? And then try to adjust to get closer to that number, and, you know, should take care of yourself, and then just keep a mental note or write it down somewhere, like, what is happening. So is the RPE increasing and you're staying with the same weight? Is the RPE staying the same and you're kind of lowering? Are you, you know, just having to drop crazy after your top set? Like, all these things are going to help kind of paint a better picture, but I think most people have the issue with overdoing it. So they're going to just go a little too heavy when they shouldn't be. But once you can learn RP, I think it is like one of the fastest ways to make progress. Steve 9 for 9 asks, how do I break a bench plateau? If I had to give you a short answer, I would just say bench more. Try to do more than what you're doing now and do it gradually. Try not to just go from nothing to infinite work, if that makes sense. The Buff Accountant asks, best foods to eat post weigh-in. How's it going, Brett? Post weigh-in, so I'm assuming we're talking about a 2-hour weigh-in. If you did any kind of weight cut, you need to put your water and sodium back in your body, and then having some type of carbohydrate is going to be great. A fast acting carb like a Gatorade or, you know, something with sugar. I don't like fruit too much for whatever reason. I just don't feel good training on fruit, but like typically I will do like Pedialyte, Gatorade, water. I'll eat some chips. I might have a tri-oral packet just because it's like ridiculously salty. And once I get that Gatorade in me, I'm pretty much good to go. Gatorade has literally been like, you know, I could just have, as long as I've had a meal, or if my glycogen stores are packed, which in this current thick boy state they are all the time, then Gatorade usually just covers it for me. If you have time, pancakes are good if you don't mind training heavy, but that might people feel sleepy before they have to squat. So it's really, once you get in the water, sodium, carbs, you can kind of do whatever. I don't really like candy though, because it just doesn't make me feel good. That's just me personally though. Kevin Ordano asks, is it better to put the bar as low as you can for low bar squats? I don't think so. I think the bar should be firmly secured between your traps and your rear delts. This is going to give you a good amount of control. It's going to decrease your range of motion. You know, there might be a freak instance where someone can get it lower and it can pass, but I'm pretty sure that there is a rule where the bar cannot be too low. So even if it was better, which I don't think that it is, you know, there's rules against it. So you just want to have a nice middle ground where you feel very stable, very controlled. Control in the squat, I cannot stress it enough. I probably say it to more than anything else. You know, controlling the weights, having enough muscle on your back to support the weight, you know, and lock it in place is very important. Willie Holler asks, how many Pop-Tarts would you consider optimal? The amount of Pop-Tarts that I would consider optimal is 2. 2 Pop-Tarts, optimal. Make sure you take off the edges. Nobody likes the edges. Captain Cabrera asks, why aren't you watching the MHA movie? To be honest, man, I don't know what this means, and I still don't know what it means days later thinking about it. But thank you for asking the question. Mike Timmons asks, do you like cueing chest up or elbows down while low bar squatting is important? I think pulling the bar down into you, I would say cueing them down, like pulling them down, is going to be a little bit more valuable than having them up, just because you want to, you know, we're going to focus on stability. I know that some people have mobility problems, and no matter what they do, like if you have a super wide grip, your elbows are going to be out a little bit more. It really just depends on the person. I would say comfort, you know, second to stability. So, you know, I think elbows down in the squat is going to help, you know, achieve that. Super Viet Q asks, should novices eat in a surplus in order to get the most out of a novice phase gain? Yes, they don't need to eat like a retard and just gain a shit ton of weight, but they should be in a slight surplus. Make sure they're training hard. Their recovery is going to be on point, and they are going to make a ton of gains, a ton of gains from doing that. If you made it this far, you are the best. I just wanted to say that there's a lot of Russ Sean questions that I'm saving to the end, so hang in there. And here we go. JD Rivera asks, what's the best post-weigh-in meal? I think I answered this earlier, but carbs, sodium, water, and whatever you like. Unknown Fitness something asks, when did you start lifting? I started lifting weights seriously. Well, I started moving and like working out with very light weights, you know, not really too many compound movements when I was like 12, 13. I started benching literally when I was 14 years old, and I've been benching ever since. But I didn't really start training like crazy as much as I could until I was like 14 or 15. And just looking back, it's like, wow, I've been benching for like 15 years. So that's pretty crazy to think about. If I had to give a year, it'd be like 2002, 2003. Way D asks, or just says, my squat sucks when I pull sumo. Any tips to help with that? If you're new to it, then that's going to be very common. It's like, think of it like as another squat variation that you're doing. I would say just the longer you do them both together, the better you'll get at it, but you might want to space them apart more so, you can recover from each one before you have to do the next one. Also, guys, some of these questions are like, individual technical questions that I can't really ask here. So I can't really answer it here because I don't know the person. So if I skipped over you, please don't hate me. Philip Faysig asks, to what extent do you plan attempts? Is it in different scenarios? So I typically give people the plan that I think they're going to hit on meet day, and then I give them a range of thirds so they can use their best judgment to kind of go based on that. And then, of course, really the way that we train, we're always trying to be objective. We're always trying to figure out what the next weight on the bar should be. So I've found that by empowering people and just kind of giving them the tools to make these certain decisions on their own, that when meet day comes around, I don't have to give them 1,000 different attempts. I could just give them like 9. And then, with the caveat of, okay, if this happens, go here. If this happens, go there. Use your best judgment, this and that. So I give them 9 attempts with a range for thirds. And honestly, if you have to drop your opener, then something went wrong. Something like you screwed up your weight cut or your peak was severely off, which doesn't really happen over here in Flexland too much. But when it does, we just take what's there. That's what I always say. Take what is there. Don't worry about a number. Just put up what you have. Eli Vargas asks, why is programming for others easier than trying to write down a plan for yourself? That's because we are super hypercritical of ourselves. We also have, it's one mind, right? And we kind of have our emotional wants, our kind of primitive wants, and then we have the logical sort of objective self. And for some people, it's hard to be objective with yourself. I feel like being objective is literally one of the major keys to what I do. It's how I'm going to get through nationals. It's how I'm going to get through prepping myself for the last Infinity meets. It's literally, just being objective. I know it's hard. It's very hard to separate your logic and reason from your emotion. But I think the longer you do this, the more numb you can become to the effects of powerlifting, to the stress of powerlifting, and which will allow your kind of thoughts to do their thing, freely, and you'll be able to just act based on what you feel is best versus like what you want, or what data is telling you to do versus like what you really want to do. You know what I'm saying? Next one comes from Mulapak Suhail, I think that's how you say your name. What's up, man? How you doing, buddy? You got some good ones here. First question is, how do you identify the appropriate amount of volume and frequency for a movement for different, and then it gets cut off? So I'll just answer the part that I got. Basically, you just want to monitor fatigue. You monitor how well you're recovering from the work that you're doing, and then if you're kind of just monitoring the weights, so your top singles and things like that, and how they're fluctuating, that can show, me, in your case, where I need to push you and how far I need to apply what amount of stress to what area. I think right now you're in an earlier stage, which kind of answers your next question. you know, you're still got some noob games that we can pull out of you, so we don't need to really hyper focus on any one lift. Going back to the Russ question about like bringing up his bench and then his deadlift, I think for more advanced lifters, over time, you're going to need to kind of focus on one. It's going to be very difficult to bring up all three at the same time. Whereas a newer, like this is people that are like hyper adapted to training, that are very well developed. Whereas like with a newer lifter, you can kind of just bring everything up, you know, all linearly. And then middle ground people, you kind of have like a, you know, you might PR bench and squat one meet and not deadlift, and then you might PR deadlift and bench one meet and not squat, and it's kind of like, you know, you're trying to bring them all up, but it's a lot to ask of the body, especially the higher you get to your threshold. Alrighty guys, we're already coming up on 20 minutes, so I'm going to continue this in part 2, which should be right there on the channel. I'm going to upload it side by side with this one. So if you guys made it this far, I really appreciate it. We'll talk about Russ, we'll talk about Sean, we'll talk about all that stuff in the next one. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in part 2. Peace.